Welcome, everybody, to the Inner Frustum, which is not to be confused with Frustrum, because there is no second R. We have today joining us James Hakesley, the exec producer of Cube Studio. We have Mark Emberton, director and cinematographer and God. We have Andreas, cinematographer, and he's a specialist in virtual production. And Hanah Sabolic, who is our Final Pixels environment artist. So we are gathered here today to talk a little bit about virtual production, specifically in advertising, specifically in the short form stuff that we're all doing a little bit of at the moment. So I will let everybody do a little introduction to themselves and speak a little about your journey with virtual production so far and the Inner Frustum.
So yeah, I'm James, as Hanah said. So I run Cube Studio. We're a virtual production stage just outside central London, but we largely work with advertising agencies, production companies, and enterprise businesses to essentially visualize and empower their productions using virtual production. And that's everything from short form to some long form and features as well. But yeah, the last 6 months since we've been open, it's been pretty crazy, the change and the growth in virtual production. And it's been a fun journey so far, and working in collaboration with lots of great people in this space as well. It's amazing what you can do.
So I'm Mark, a director, but with a leaning towards cinematography. I came from a DOP background and a post background, a motion control background. We did 5 days last week on an absolutely seamless, wonderful job, which was all shot in camera, possibly the easiest shoot I've ever done in like 20 years. But again, it's getting back to kind of shooting more kind of stuff in camera. So I could go on, but I'll pass the buck.
Thank you. I'm Hanah Draper. I'm the global head of production of Final Pixel. I look after the production side of things and also Worldbuilders. We did the job with Mark last week, which was such a delight. Oh my goodness. Every time we came, like the crew was so happy that everyone was... Wasn't it great? We had like a real team of talent in Cube Studio.
We were in the Alps for 5 days.
Say again?
We were in the Alps for 5
days. We were up a freaking mountain in the middle of Maidenhead.
To feel like we were there.
Yeah.
Snow everywhere.
It was so much fun. It made me almost feel guilty for taking the money at the end of the day.
We were like, take the money. And festive as well. Like on the first day, the first shoot day, I wore a glittery, sparkly dress because Christmas. Andreas?
Yes, I'm Andreas. I'm a cinematographer. I work on lots of things, actually, commercial, long form, and I've been fortunate enough to be involved in virtual production more or less since the beginning, especially with Final Pixel. And over the last couple of years, 2.5 years, it's changed so much. It's getting better and better, and especially from a cinematography perspective, the lighting is now pushing and being developed and designed specifically for virtual production. So this has made it, from a cinematography perspective, really exciting. And there's lots more to come. I'm hearing rumors about new things that are being developed and should be out next year, which I'm looking forward to. So it's a fun place to be within the cinematography side, strictly from my point of view. But
And Hanah? Goddess.
Hi, everybody. I'm Hanah, and I am an environment artist at Final Pixel, where we create all sorts of assets and environments for real-time projects. We have also launched Worldbuilders, as Hanah mentioned, a couple of months ago, where we try to recreate like realistic environments based on a client's preferences or pictures sometimes or videos. So we would take that as a reference and we would create realistic, photorealistic environment in Unreal. We work on all sorts of real-time projects, smaller, big stuff. It's been an awesome journey so far.
Yeah, you should have called yourself a magician, 100%. She is. She is.
We
a
all
magician.
are.
We're all magicians around here.
Big part of the process, actually, those backgrounds and environments. It is. It's actually for me probably the most important thing, actually, because sometimes instinctively, or traditionally, I should say, people lean towards the cinematographer to make it look good to a certain extent, combined with the designer. But when it comes to virtual production, if that environment is not good enough, then it doesn't matter what you try and do in terms of camera and lighting. It just, there's only so far you can.
Yeah, you need to be part of that collaboration early on.
Collaboration is key.
Yeah, we like to bring in, as you know, because you've done this many times now with us, we like the cinematographer to be part of that process, like in multiple different ways, like having the understanding of the cinematographer's view when it comes to building the environments from like a virtual pre-light point of view, but also from a tech pre-vis point of view. But equally, if you're using plates, if you're like about to shoot plates for whatever project you're working on, or if you're just choosing plates, like if it's got how best the DOP will be utilizing the lighting and looking at the whether it be stock or whether it be a 3D environment, what best to really like bring the background and the foreground together to make it all feel seamless. I think that's so key to have the DOP's point of view on that.
I think we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? Sorry, we had this great conversation, which we should have recorded.
I know.
And I think we were talking about, that ability now to embed stuff in the environment was key, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, no, absolutely. And there's so many things to consider when it comes to plates. It's frame rates. You need to consider motion blur potentially, how the plates are actually moving left to right, front to back. There's lots of considerations when it comes to plates, and then not to mention matching from a lighting perspective, hard light, soft light. Obviously with virtual production, soft light is natural. It's, we have a big soft source here. But even with the volume itself, with these panels, you still need to potentially push it further. So all these considerations have to be made. But the result, hopefully, is a seamless integration, a more realistic feel. That's our job, to make it feel as real as possible, and no horrible, green tints that we're trying to remove later. So yeah, the benefits are there.
And that's it. We want to be able to achieve final pixel in camera, like shameless plug there of the company name. Then I'm sorry about that, but it's true.
It's true.
You have to marry the two up, don't you? Because no surprises on set. That's the thing, right? With virtual production and doing everything in the pre-production phase and pre-vis, and really owning that and having that relationship from director to DOP to the Unreal artist, and making sure everyone's on the same page.
I think that's what you're trying to kind of, it's doing the post-production effectively in the pre-production stage, which is the planning, and then obviously not having to shoot anything. Well, you could shoot green screen still, but not having to shoot anything green screen. We did some work with kind of bottles last week for these kind of pack shots that we're doing, and it was nice to get the natural refractions through the glass rather than trying to then kind of key it out in post. And I'm not knocking. There's some amazing. I've worked with some amazing kind of flame artists and post-production people, but it was nice to be able to shoot stuff in camera again, and having prepped that before quite considerably. So it's allowing for a little bit of prep before to make the whole thing go smoothly.
I just wanted to say that I think it's much more convenient for directors to see it prior to the post-production, which can be like intense to wait for. So you can like do so much prior to the shoot now, with having the environment and time, to spend more on the.
And we've been talking about that a little bit, about how we could then. So we had the pipeline and the workflow that we worked to for last week's project, but we could then detour to. I'm gonna start that again. We had the pipeline that we worked with our project last week, which was great. But we're already evolving how that could be made even more effective. Like we could be taking some of because last week was a product shoot, and we could be taking some of those products and we could scan them, we could put them into Unreal, we could then previs them. You could then make decisions on the kind of choreography of it, but also like the mise en scène. I said it. I judge myself. But but generally, we're always evolving on what we can do to make this even more streamlined, and I think it's clever.
Yeah, it's constant optimization, right? It's
Yeah.
like, because of how new virtual production is, and it's, technology is always changing, workflows are always changing. You're just tinkering it all the time to improve it. Like, it's continuous improvement, and that is the exciting part of it. You could do something that actually next time, let's factor that into the process in pre-production, into the workflows.
And it's like, it's making it better from both a schedule point of view, but also from a budget point of view. Like our first shoot, like the first virtual production shoot that I produced, my budget allowed for our techno crane and both of our grips and to be there from the first content test day, because we were using Moses tracking for that, and because of this technology was quite new to us, we wanted to risk mitigate. So we wanted to get the camera onto the head, onto the techno crane. Obviously you need to have 2 grips with that, and you're paying for those people's time, you're paying for that kit's time. But we wanted to risk mitigate and make sure that at no point the Moses tracker was going to get knocked and then set us back. But now, where we've done it a ton of times, and we've put the Moses tracker with the camera onto Steadicam now, we've done it with motion control, we've done it with multiple different ways of it being thrown around everywhere, and we've now began to trust the technology and its strength's not the right word, but its reliability in terms of like moving it around and stuff. And so therefore now we don't have the grip, and we just put the camera, get it all ready and set up on a head and legs or something, and then we move it on to whatever grip we're using afterwards, knowing that that's going to be reliable. And that's a considerable money saving.
That's a really good point, actually, because you're right. In the early days, it was this kind of slower process, making sure everything was working. We're also being incredibly careful, the slightest knock, But now the reliability of the technology has, it's come so far now that it helps budget, it helps, and it makes sure we put the budget in the right place to get it on the screen as much as possible.
Yeah.
And just following on from a point you said earlier about final pixel, and I think there's also a big benefit if you're not necessarily shooting final pixel to shoot within a virtual environment simply for lighting. Again, talking strictly from a cinematography perspective, but if for whatever reason there's other things that have to be tweaked and it will be replaced later, you can still have the advantage of shooting within a volume. You have that natural light and color and reflections. And then if it needs to be replaced afterwards, and it can be. In fact, I worked on a shoot last year that it was exactly this approach. We tested out some hard lights first of all. We tested out the environment, which was more or less how it was going to be in the final shot. But we just took advantage of shooting in a volume stage, taking advantage of the lighting, the reflections, and at least we know what we've shot looks natural and real. So once it's replaced later, it's a better result.
I think it's now just translating that, the film industry is obviously taken to this very quickly because of COVID. I think it's now translating a lot of the benefits to the advertising industry, dare I say procurement, just to say actually you not only is there a cost saving, there's the kind of as you said the other week, there's the green benefits, about not having to kind of trash multiple sets in a studio, not maybe having to fly a crew around the globe for some of the shots. There's such a huge amount. It's just getting those. I mean, we're all comfortable with it. It's now translating that to other people who are yet to kind of cotton on. But again, it's only going to grow. It's only going to grow for the next kind of couple of years. I mean, seismic, to be honest.
There's a real trickle-down effect, I think,
Yeah.
from film and TV and the buzzword of The Mandalorian.
Mm.
But it's kind of trickled down, and you're starting to see like loads of different sectors actually starting to realize how they can utilize it.
And clients starting to realize how they can utilize it, because it's so true with procurement. When a client and a procurement team realize that actually your shoot that you need to, or your campaign that needs to cover multiple different territories, so you have got a market in Greece as well as the North America as well as UK, as well as all of these different areas that you could actually just shoot it from the studio in Maidenhead, and you could be in Greece and North America and London and save the cost on having to do that in multiple different places.
I'd rather be in Greece, to be honest.
Okay,
I could bring a
The sun does shine
light.
here occasionally.
I know, that's it. They're like, can I have my vitamin D?
Ideally, we got two things here which were key to last week. Number one is the fact that we got. I think for the project that I was dealing with, you got quite a quick turnaround. So everything's shot in camera, so they're not spending like major time trying to key kind of the product shots that we did. And your like 10-hour golden hour shoot is an absolutely perfect example of you not having to chase lights.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about that shoot? That was the Prayers job with Matilda Finn, right? That's a nice job.
Yeah, that's right. I think we shot it 3 months ago. It was one of those perfect examples of virtual production, like you mentioned, Mark. It was all set at golden hour. So instead of us having realistically 40 minutes of usable time, we had 10 hours. So that's the first huge advantage. So from that point of view, I don't even think it was necessarily possible unless it was a green screen, which we didn't want to do for obvious reasons. The light quality and the look is something we could not have achieved in any other way. And there's one other thing to add actually about the press shoot. We were fortunate enough to be the first in the country, I think, to use the KinoFlow Mimic lights, the new soft lights developed by KinoFlow, which are specifically designed for virtual production, which is essentially LED panels that you can select a part of the environment that you're projecting on the main volume, and that creates a perfect, it emulates precisely what the color is from that part of the image that you've selected, and the color rendition is perfect. It actually is perfect. There's no skew towards unwanted greens or magentas, unless that's what you're selecting in the image, of course. And they're incredibly bright, 10,000 nits, which is another thing we've been struggling with a little bit in terms of intensity. Whereas I think with the Mimics at 10,000 nits, that's plenty of intensity, or as far as I experienced, it was very good. And so all these things combined, I think worked incredibly well on the press shoot and felt very natural.
We had the cast on that shoot as well, where I have to be careful with my choice of words right now, but their skin was moist, it was damp.
Yeah.
And so the way that they were lit was so beautiful. Like, they looked amazing.
It was one of those, I'll take credit for that.
Yes, please do. It's him.
Well, what I will say
magician.
is it was one of those situations. I haven't used these kind of lights before to this extent. I mean, they're so accurate, and to actually set these lights up in the correct position, of course, and select the part of the image that you wanted these lights to push further, because that's what we're trying to do, push that soft light from the environment further onto the talent from the right direction, so it's rappy and natural, was so stunning. It was literally plug in, switch on, and it looked fantastic.
Yeah.
And some fine tweaking. We used very few lights on that shoot, if I remember correctly. We had
the hard light for the sun coming through, that was really nice. That
and then we
amazing.
Incorporated a hard light as well, to give us the sun effect.
And with that, that's when we because we were here, popped a panel out the back of it, and we shot with floor for that particular one, so that we had like the rocks that were at the front, and then we had our couple that were standing on it, and then you could see the sea. And because of the height at Cube Studio, it's 5.5 meters, that you were still able to see all of the glory of the clouds that Chris Bouchard was an actual magician on. He's our VAD supervisor and VP supervisor, and he made like the most beautiful like timed clouds and timed waves. It all just looked so nice. But like all of those factors coming together, like there's no way you wouldn't believe that was it, in front of a 10-hour long sunset.
The stuff, I think that's the art, isn't it? I mean, the imagery that you showed me from that was, with all due respect, was absolutely stunning, and it looks as though it's out on location, but at that perfect it's that ability to recreate that perfect sweet spot, you know, that moment. But I think, again, getting back to yourself, I think it's getting easier. Dare I say, you know, the hard part really was the backgrounds, first of all.
Absolutely.
Those are just coming on, aren't they?
Yeah, for that shoot, the background was rendered prior to the shoot. But yeah, to add, to the point that to have those moments in the studio, so much easier now with the technology being so advanced, and with Unreal having those amazing tools, you know, so like Lumen, for example, or Nanite, or like amazing plugins that we use, like VDBs and stuff, that everybody can have those moments in the studio. Without the technology, like a few years back, those were not like possibly like
Can you
possible.
talk about your waterfall?
Waterfall. Oh yeah, Waterfall. It's another project we're working on. Final Pixel. It's tropical rainforest real-time environment that we currently build. You're gonna hopefully see it soon at Cube Studios. Actually, when we started working on waterfalls, we said to Chris, like at Cube, they have this amazing, huge, tall wall that a waterfall would just look purely amazing from like looking from like upstairs to the wall. Yeah, for that project, we use like a combination of 2D and 3D assets. So we are having some media plates encoded and like placed into the environment for the waterfall to look real as much as possible. New substrate materials we're using, and those blending tools that have been released a couple of months ago, you know, for making that realism like really kind of on point. And then like tools like PCGs and others to make a huge landscape, huge environment with thousands of instances. Again, those like big kind of distance shots weren't possible before on real time on a 4K wall, just because of the performance, which is another thing we always have to have at the back of our mind.
Sorry, that is in fact my alarm.
Is
And
it?
it was my alarm. I know. It was like my maybe like
Anna,
midday
stop
nap.
talking.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
That's rookie error. That means the drinks are on you.
I know.
That's
Hannah's getting
that's
the
a
wine
lie.
tonight. Sorry, Anna. Continue.
No, what
with
I was
your...
saying is, Unreal really works hard on, Unreal team works hard on providing us with those tools so we can have those great times at studio. But we always have to be, again, thinking about performance and how to kind of manage to make it all actually work and play in the real time with DOP and with the team. So yeah.
But water used to be one of those things that was like virtually impossible.
Impossible
right?
to do it.
In virtual production, it was one of those like no-go areas. It was like it never really looked
Yeah,
realistic. But now we're getting to that point
Waters
where
and
you can do that.
foliage, like that.
Yeah.
Those were always things when we saw it in a script. You were like, huh. But
do
now, like I
Yeah.
caught a glimpse of the waterfall environment, like behind your shoulder the other day at the office, and the movement of the water, the way it was, like the waterfowl, the way that the water was responding to that, the way that the mist was coming up, like it's very, very good, Anna.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very,
Yeah,
very good.
When I started a couple of years ago with Unreal training, I remember tutors saying, like, don't touch water don't touch it for at least another few years, because it's not going to be possible to make it real or play in real time. But it is, like, those tools are really getting upgraded on like pretty monthly basis. Now we have updates from Unreal Engine, so it's possible.
And it's wild what we can do as well, because it's worth mentioning with the Oracle Red Bull racing spot that we did earlier in the year, the freedom and the flexibility to what we could actually achieve for that in its timeline, because that was a mental timeline. Let's not cast shade on it. Like, it was very, very quick, and we captured drone and car plate footage from in multiple different destinations in the US. Then that came over here, and the way that worked was that we then gave the content, because we were so quick on time. We gave the content to our DIT, who was Arthur, was an absolute genius on this. he then put a lot on it that then was good for both the post part of it, so our VFX team that was then going to be doing the kind of wider shots of the Formula One car, and then also we then threw some of it up onto the volume, and then we were tinkering it from that. We were also bringing in the Unreal element to it as well, and so we had these. There were certain parts of it that, like our desert, and our mural in I can't remember where in US it was, but the way that was set up, the bus stop and stuff like that. And then the client said, "Oh, do you know what? We have got beautiful shots of all of our sponsors, but we don't have one of Red Bull." And at that point, we didn't have the grip. We didn't have the ability to shoot a top down like it. We wouldn't, and that's exactly where it was. It's on the what's that called on a Formula One car? The spoiler? No, it's not the spoiler. The front bit. Is it the front? The front bit of the car. That's where the Red Bull logo was. And so, and we didn't have any green like that we could put on the floor. Like we essentially couldn't do it. However, in Unreal, we were able to render directly out of Unreal our model of the car coming forward, and then we got this perfect hero shot of the logo. And you just like, without using virtual production, without using Unreal Engine, without using the capabilities and the workflows that have become accessible to us, they wouldn't have got that hero shot, and we did get it, and it looks amazing. So yeah, the technology is really opening up doors for filmmaking.
I think what the challenge is going to be is getting everyone to switch that dynamic slightly to do what was effectively post at pre-production. I think that's going to be the biggest, obviously as you said, as the technology just is coming on leaps and bounds, it's kind of saying, right, well, we're going to need less of this, but we're going to need more of the prep stuff. I think from what I'm seeing, that in terms of budgeting, which long form it allows for that kind of like process, but in commercials, you need to kind of switch that kind of methodology to allow for, well, we're going to have the post production, but actually it's going to be the stuff we're going to shoot or generate to shoot the stuff in camera, as you said, all those nice kind of sexy backgrounds and bits and pieces. So. And again, you need to get people to think in terms of that rather than we're going to shoot it green screen and we're going to then just comp a load of stuff on afterwards and we'll get sign off. So again, preparation like that is everything, isn't it? Really,
it's a big educational piece, really.
Yeah.
Like you have to go on a journey with the producers, and it's that educating them about what the shift is from doing green screen and how it works in virtual production, and sometimes sitting down with the producer and looking at their budget and moving things over lines and saying, look, actually that's where that's moving to. Actually, you can still work within that budget, but what you'd allocated in post, we're now dealing with in pre. But it's the solution side, which I think is really key when you're working with a director or a DOP. It's like, what does that empower them to do? So if you start thinking about virtual production at the beginning of creating a campaign, all of a sudden you can think of all of these great things that you can do to add to the creative. So you're selling it as actually, how do you empower the creative with virtual production? Instead of it like, oh, we'll just worry about it in post like we did before. And it's like, actually now you can develop your ideas a bit more before you even get on set.
Yeah,
there's less
like,
risk. Yeah,
fix it in pre.
Yeah.
I keep on hearing fix it in pre. Like that comes
famous
up
T-shirt. Fix it in pre.
I know. Maybe that's what
pre.
we should have called this. And it's so true. I think, and also like because of we like Final Pixel, we think about things in a very holistic point of view. Like it means that we're having, where we produce the spot, we then are able to draw on our director of production. We can what do you do? A director of photography. There we go. Director of photography. As well as our production designer, as well as our OSVP team, as well as our VAD team, as well as our, all of these amazing elements of a production. Actually, every single department touches the virtual production. It's not just a section of your call sheet. It's an approach to filmmaking, and when it gets utilized in that way, it means that we get to really hone in on its benefits and its possibilities as well. Wow, that was sage, wasn't it? That was sage. Okay, well, should we wrap it? Yeah, let's wrap it all up. Oh, do you know what I want to wrap up this with? You can choose between you who wants to take it. Maybe it's Anna. Can you tell? Because obviously, the Inner Frustum, like if you know, you know. But you want to talk about what the Inner Frustum is?
Okay, so when we are on set, how to explain in 1 minute? When we are on set, we have wall in front of us, and then we have our camera that is connected to that wall to our tracking system, and then that camera or that Inner Frustum is our window to the 3D world. I think that's silliest.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, it's like the Inner Frustum is the wall to the the window to the 3D world, and then we would have the Outer Frustum, which is like out of focus usually, image on the wall that will serve very important purpose of lighting the scene and the actors and everything around.
That's perfect. Wow. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and Nigel, for being part of our first The Inner Frustum. It's been really, fun. Really nice.
Yeah. I'm honoured.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Okay, cool.
Nice.